Today we will be making a leather daybed. I first cut my 2 sheets of plywood to the appropriate widths using my circular saw. I made sure that the section of plywood that I was cutting off was free from the sawhorses before making my cut. I clamped down my material to make sure all my cuts were nice and straight. To make my cross cuts, I moved one of the sawhorses over, clamped it in place, and then made my cut. Once I got all my pieces cut, I glued both of the sheets of plywood together. Stacking 2 sheets of plywood together will give the daybed a little bit more strength. I decided to add some screws to speed up the build just a little bit. If you have the time to wait for the glue to cure, screws are not entirely necessary. For the cushion, I will be using Kaizen foam. I've used this in a previous project before and it makes for a really good cushion. The foam cuts pretty easily using an X-Acto knife, but it does require a little bit of scoring for a clean cut. The method I used to making this cushion is pretty similar to the one that I made for my storage bench. The only difference is that I'm adding 3/4 inch strips on the longer side of the cushion rather than all over. I took all of my foam pieces outside and spray glued them together. I first glued the base together and then I went on to glue on the strips on top. I used some double stick tape to adhere the 2 pieces together. Because of the weight of the plywood, I found it easier for it to lean up against the wall and then push the foam against it rather than having the foam on the floor and then putting the wood on top of it. I placed the cushion onto the leather and then measured roughly 5 inches all over. This gave me enough to fold over the edges of the cushion and then staple onto the plywood. The first side was a little difficult to staple on evenly, so I used some tape to help me even it out before stapling it on. I used 10-inch hairpin legs. I will leave a link to where I got them in the description box. I did some field measurements to make sure I liked the placement of the hairpin legs. I used a pen to mark out the screw holes onto the plywood. I pre-drilled my holes, making sure I didn't go all the way through. To finish off the daybed, I screwed in the hairpin legs using the screws that they provided. I really love how this daybed looks great with the leather foam roller that I made. The hairpin legs really give this daybed a modern and effortless look. For more detailed instructions, check out our website. And if you're curious to see what I'm working on next, feel free to follow me on Instagram. Check out some of our other videos and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. As always, thanks for watching.